Hi everyone, it's Jennifer Baird, adjunct professor with Campbellsville University. So I noticed after our first assignment in the advanced practice course that there are quite a few issues with APA that were pretty common among all the students. So I decided that I was going to try to record a little tutorial to walk through some of the common issues that I found. And again, most of these were repeated multiple times by multiple different people. So I know APA formatting can be quite a challenge if you're not familiar or you don't use it frequently. So again, I thought I'd just walk through some of these common errors so that way we can go through and work on them to help you all improve. So I wanted to start with looking at a website that I actually use quite frequently when I'm doing my own work. And so when I need to look up APA format, I always go to OWL. I'm not sure, I think most of you, I would imagine, are familiar with the online writing lab at Purdue. So they have a really great web page that's very thorough, and they are usually, well, pretty much always up to date. As you can see that they have already updated to APA 7th edition. And what you'll find is that they have a pretty clear menu over here that'll walk you through different sources, different types of sources, whether you're doing an in-text citation or a reference. Like I said, this is something I myself use because APA can be challenging. And so knowing where to access the information you need in order to do it correctly can be one of the biggest hurdles. So whether you're looking at headings or if you want to see a sample paper or just looking at your basic references, this is a great site to use to be able to get that information. So I wanted to start here and at least show you this website. If nothing else, you'll at least have a nice place, a nice guide to go to look up any information that you need. But let's switch back over here. All right, these are sections that I pulled out from various papers. Don't get upset if you see something from one of your papers on here. I couldn't even tell you whose papers they were. I just pulled them from random ones. And I guarantee you, and actually I can tell you for sure, all of these mistakes are made on multiple different papers, which is part of the reason why they're on this list. All right, so don't be upset if you see your example here. It's okay. This is all about learning. But let's start with some of the common in-text citations. So the purpose of in-text citations are to give your reader more information about where the information you're providing is coming from, and then also a guide to where they need to go to the reference page to look up where they can find more information on your topic. So there's a standard format in APA that we use to do that. And in-text citations can be done two ways. There's a parenthetical that you can do at the end of the sentence, or when you're writing the sentence, you can and you're using the author's name, you can actually, like in this sentence, there's a way, this is not the correct way, but there is a way to format this with the author's name as a part of the sentence. All right, so let's just start with this first one. This was, again, something I pulled from someone's paper. From their first assignment. And there's a couple of issues with this very first one. So we have that, theory-specific factors are what the therapist says and does to facilitate change while following his or her therapeutic model. Great, good sentence. What we need to look at here, though, is the citation. First, your punctuation is never before the citation. All right, your punctuation is always going to go after the parenthetical citation. All right, also, when we're doing an in-text citation as a parenthetical, you do not need the author's initials. So your parenthetical in-text citation is going to be the author's last name, Gayhart, followed by the year, which this person had the year as 2015, but the book I have, the year is actually 2016 that it was copyrighted in. So you always want to make sure that you are looking at and you have the most accurate information. The best way to do that is to pull out your textbook and look at the first or second page, depends on the publisher. But all of that information is right there at the beginning. All right, so here's another one that I pulled. And according to Gayhart, there are 3 phases that make up the treatment planning process. Again, an improper citation here, because anytime you are citing something in text for APA, the author's last name and the year have to go together. So this should actually be, according to Gayhart, 2016. All right, and what that does is if your reader's reading this and you have multiple articles by this same person, or maybe you've read multiple books by this same person, it lets them know specifically right there in that moment which one to go to your reference page and look at. All right, that's another reason why the references have the author's last name and the year in parentheses as the starting point. So that way you can immediately match the in-text citation with the reference. All right, so this is a fairly simple change. It doesn't take a lot to do that, but always remember that you have to keep the author's last name and the year together. All right, here's another example that I had from a student, which was in the textbook, Selecting Effective Treatments. The treatments suggested are based off of research and provide clinicians with information that helps provide the most effective treatments for specific diagnosis. All right, so I love that someone's using a text that is from, I would imagine, a different class, maybe from a previous practice course, and that you're incorporating that knowledge into the work that you're doing here. However, with APA format, you're generally not going to use the title of a book. All right, what you're going to use is you're going to use the author's last name. And so I'm not actually even sure who the author is. So let's hop back over to the internet here and use our handy, I don't know if you use Google Scholar, but it's one that I go to for things like this because it's very quick and easy. So let's just pull up Google Scholar here. Let me look at the name of that again. That was Selecting Effective Treatments. Effective Treatments. And let's see if I come up with a book here. All right, so I have a book, Comprehensive Systematic Guide to Treating Mental Disorders. Again, I'm just kind of assuming, I see there's multiple books here with this name. So I'm going to grab this most recent one right here. All right, and I'm going to use this. Oh, of course, they're not pulling me to the front. They're starting me in the middle of the thing. So I'm actually going to show you another little secret. Well, maybe not a secret. But there's a few things to keep in mind here when doing this. This little quotation marks will actually pull up citations for you. But the thing that you have to pay a lot of attention to is to actually see if this is correct. Because I have found a lot of times when using this that the citations are actually not done correctly. And then, of course, you always have to make sure that you're copying the correct one. All right, so we're going to copy and paste this over to our paper down here in References. And we can always verify and check that later. What I want here is just to see the names so we can cite it properly. So in this one, we can tell it's a book based on how this reference is, and then also it told us. And so what we're going to do is we're going to see that there's 2 authors. So say you're not exactly sure what to do with 2 authors for an in-text citation. So let's come back over here to our OWL Writing Lab and let's go to in-text citation, authors, and see what it tells us to do. A work by 2 authors. Name both authors in the signal phrase or the parentheses each time you cite the work. Use the word "and" in between the author's names within the text, and use the ampersand if you're doing it in parentheses. So again, these are the 2 ways that you can cite in text, whether you're using the author's name, research by, you're going to use the word "and", and then a keynote here is that if you're doing the parenthetical, you have to use an ampersand. All right, so let's come back over here. All right, and this is going to be a fun one to spell, so I'm actually going to copy and paste it up here. All right, so let's start with this. And we're going to say according to, and I'm going to paste their names in, and going to then fix this citation. Because again, when you're using an in-text citation, you don't need their initials. Because this is in the sentence, we're going to use the word "and" and we're going to put in parentheses the year, which I believe was 2016. And then, of course, we want proper punctuation. Since that's a kind of initial phrase, we're going to put a comma there, and it was 2016. So modifying this, it would be, according to Reichenberg and Siegelman, I'm assuming that's how you say their names, 2016, the treatments suggested are based off of research, which of course the sentence might need to be modified now that we're not using the phrase selecting effective treatments. But still, what you're going to do is you're going to use the author's name in a proper citation format. So that way the reader can then look and immediately know where to go on the reference page, which again, this is not a proper reference page. We will fix that later, and see, okay, here they are. This is the name of the book. This is the publisher. So that way they can find the exact source material that you used for this. It's the same basic thing with this next one, which is looking at the Social Work Code of Ethics, setting the standard for social workers. Now, the problem is that this is not cited properly, and you're also not citing where you got this information from, which I'm assuming is the NASW Code of Ethics. So let's jump over here, all right, and let's just look up NASW Code of Ethics. All right, and that's going to get us here. And then from here, read the Code of Ethics, read the code online. And let's see what all information we have on here. All right, of course we can break this down. Now I have, there we go. Revised in 2017. This is what I was looking for. So it was initially improved in 1996, and the most recent revision was from 2017. So again, let's come back here and let's find our reference list for what are we going to do for electronic sources. All right, well, we have a web page or piece of content online. Last name, first initial, middle initial, the year, the month and the date, the title of the page, the site name, the URL. All right, there actually used to be, let me see if they still have it. There's some special guidelines for when the publisher is the name of the author. So I'm looking, because there are some updates in the 7th edition of the APA for this. So let me just see if I can find those updates listed here. As you can see, they actually have a lot of new things that they didn't have before, such as like a tweet now, how to properly cite that, how to properly cite an email, an online forum or discussion post, Facebook posts. All of this is fairly new. Hey, look, there's TED Talks. I love using TED Talks in my class. You guys might have to pay attention to that in the future. All right, so I'm not seeing the guidelines. But basically, there is a guideline that you don't have to repeat it with the publisher. All right, so what we're going to do, okay, if the resource was written by a group or organization, use the name of the group or organization as the author. Additionally, if the author and site name are the same, omit the site name from the citation. All right, so this is one where they omitted the site name because the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals was also the site name. And so you don't see that here, you just see the URL. So this is the one that we're actually going to use. And what I'm going to do, I copy and paste this one. I bring that right over here to my reference page. And we're actually going to input this information and fill this out. So the group name we know is the National Association of Social Workers. All right, the year, month, and the date. So on this, let's see if we can find a date. We know the year that it was updated and revised, which is 2017. So it looks like that's all the information we know. So we're going to put in 2017, title of the page. Well, that's easy enough to copy. It's going to be Read the Code of Ethics. Copy. Let's put that in here. Make sure you watch your punctuation. And notice that this is supposed to be in italics. Oh, look at that. It's copying everything. All right, so let's change this back to destination formatting. Okay. And this bolded, and it's not supposed to be in bold, so I'm going to take that off. But it is in italics like it should be. All right, so there's Read the Code of Ethics. The site name, again, we can eliminate because the site name is from the National Association of Social Workers. And now we're going to copy the URL here. So copy and put that in. So we have it now on our reference page. All right, and this is what it's going to look like. This is not in Times New Roman, so I'm going to edit that. Okay, so there we go. We have our citation done properly in the reference page. Now we have to go back to our in-text citation, and we are going to put in the National Association of Social Workers, and we're going to put in the year. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and this is just kind of a technical note, say you're doing a paper and the whole paper is on ethics, and you're going to be citing the Code of Ethics quite frequently throughout the paper. The APA does allow you on the very first citation, if it is a well-known organization that anyone will be able to read and understand and know what you mean when you use the acronym, it will allow you in the citation to put the acronym before the comma in brackets, NASW. And what this does is it lets the reader know that in the future when you cite this, you're going to cite it as NASW 2017. That keeps you from having to have the National Association of Social Workers typed every single time that you cite the Code of Ethics. But again, that's only if you know that you're going to be using that source quite frequently. All right, but this is a proper citation for APA. So we're going to use the parenthetical. So if you're talking about a Code of Ethics, you need to be citing it, and you need to have it on your reference page as well. All right, another one of the errors that I saw was, as in with this sentence, again, this is cited, but it has the page number here, and the page number is before the date. A couple of issues with that. One, there's no quotation marks in this sentence, so there's no direct quote that I can see unless the person just did not punctuate correctly. So you only need a page number when you are doing a direct quote. And I have an example of the direct quote down here at the bottom. We'll talk about that one. So anytime you're citing, if it's not a direct quote, don't put the page number in. All right, all you need, and if you notice, I had this happen a couple of times, people are spelling Gayhart's name wrong. There's actually not an R here. So make sure you double check the spelling. And you want to make sure that your spelling matches what's in your reference page as well, okay? But this is the proper way to do an in-text citation, all right? Now here, again, someone almost in a way double cited. So you have Gayhart reminds us here at the beginning, and then you have a citation, a parenthetical citation for her at the end. This is redundant. So if you're going to put her name in text, which, just a side note, we don't end sentences on a preposition, but we're going to do Gayhart 2016. All right, and that's going to be the in a sentence, the proper citation when you have the name in the sentence. All right, and then I don't know why this law is randomly capitalized. Make sure you watch your capitalizations there. So we're going to switch that around for this one. Now this is the one where I was talking about there's quotation marks. So I understand that the person's doing a direct quote, which means yes, you do have to have a page number when you have a direct quote. So the page number is not the issue with this one. The issue is that the year and the author are split up. Anytime you're citing an APA format, your year and your author need to be together. So you can actually cite this two ways. You can use this in text like this with the year in parentheses, and you're going to take it out here. And then after your parentheses, after your quotation, you're going to have the page number in parentheses. So you can separate out the page number to be after the quote, but you want the author and the year to be together. Or the other way would be to do the parenthetical at the end and to get rid of the author's name, and let's just say research tells us, and we want to put the author here with the year always comes second, and then with the page number. This would be the other way you can cite it. So there's the two ways, all right, in the parenthetical after or with the name and the year in the actual sentence. All right, so from there, we're going to move on to your reference page. Now, references should not be just at the end. It should be its own separate page. So we're going to insert a page break. All right, we're going to have that started over here. And references should be in bold. And say you can't exactly remember what this page is supposed to look like. Well, that's what your reference list is for, or that's what reference sites are for. So let's go and see if the basic rules and see if it's here. Formatting a reference. All right, this talks about the different lines and where they're supposed to be, and what to italicize, what to capitalize here. We're going to go through some of those as well. But say you want to actually see a picture of it. Let's go to the sample paper and see if that's here. And again, student papers are going to look a little bit different than professional papers. There were some rules that were put in place, which one that I'll note since we're right here is there's no running head anymore. Not even on the, actually, they kind of have one here, but you don't need a running head. With the APA 7th edition, also students do not have to do abstracts, which you should all be celebrating because I know I hated doing those when I was in school as a student. So you don't have to do the abstracts, but say you want to see what it should look like. We'll keep scrolling here. They have their images, they have tables in here, so you can see what that looks like. And look, here's a reference page. So say you couldn't remember if references should be centered or not. You can come look at an actual example, all right? And that way you can make sure you have your formatting correctly. All right, so we're going to center references. It's going to be on its own page. Just know that these should all be alphabetical, which we'll rearrange in a minute. But looking at these references, let's look at this first one. Gayhart, Diane, 2016, Theory and Treatment Planning and Family Therapy, a competency-based approach, Cengage Learning as a publisher. All right, so first glance, you're like, oh, is that okay? But no, it's not. First things first, we don't use their full name. All right, you need the first initial. So it's Gayhart D, 2016. Now, the capitalization's correct on this. You capitalize the first word of the title and the first letter of the first word in the subtitle after the colon as well. The problem is this is not italicized. The title of a book should always be italicized. All right, and then you have your publisher. Now, the thing to remember with the APA 7, you no longer need to include a location. All right. But say you couldn't remember exactly how to format this. Again, this is why I love using OWL specifically, because I can come in here and go, oh, that's in-text citations. I don't want in-text citations. I want reference list, and let's go to books. And say, I just can't remember how to cite a book. That's okay. These things are hard to memorize. So what I can do is I can take this, I can copy and paste the format it should be in, and then I can pick up my book and just fill in the information, and it's all right here for what I need to include, the format, the punctuation, and everything. All right, so it's not necessarily about memorizing this, it's about knowing how to find the information you need to do your citations correctly. All right, this is another example of a source that came. I don't know if this was copy and pasted because if I still have this up. If we go back to looking at these citations, there are a lot of formats and styles that have the year at the end. MLA apparently does, the Chicago style does, but we're not using those. We're using APA formatting. So what we want to do here is we can look at this and automatically know that this 2016 is in the wrong place. Again, this is supposed to be consistent with your in-text citations to make it easy for people to match the citation with the reference. All right, so we have her middle initial in this one, which is good. We know that it's not written on the book, so you wouldn't necessarily know that. If you have that information, include it. If you don't, then don't. But here we have Gayhart, DR. All right, we have 2016, and there should be a period after the 2016. And now we have this title italicized, which is correct, but we have the capitalizations all wrong. So again, the first letter of the first word is the only one in the title, and this is one of the hardest things I know for me to get used to, looking at it like this, that we just don't capitalize the rest of the title. Why? I actually don't know that one. But that's the format they have it, and then of course in this you're going to capitalize the first letter of the first word after a colon, and then the rest, just like with the title, is all lowercase. All right, and then you have your period, and then you have your publisher. So the thing to keep in mind too when you're looking at your books is that you're citing the correct publisher. I found in about half of mine that a different publisher was listed in about half of the assignments that were turned in. So Cengage Learning is the publisher of the book I have. Others had Brooks & Cole listed, so if that's on your book, by all means, send me a picture and I will update that. But otherwise, you need to make sure that you're looking at the correct publisher, and again, no location is needed with the APA 7th edition. All right, we already worked on this one, and let me just kind of scroll through and double check quickly. I'm going to just double check that comma because, like I said, I can't remember and I don't have it all memorized, but I'm pretty sure we copied from here. Let's see. So yeah, there is a comma after the first one before the and, when there's more than one author. So that's correct. And let's see, we have that, 2016, italicized, proper punctuation, our capitalizations, and the publisher. All right. And then we have this National Association of Social Workers. So again, because this is supposed to be alphabetical, I'm going to cut and paste. So this is in the correct order. And then the other thing I'm noticing, I thought I had changed that, but this also needs to be indented. Oh, that's wanting to do both. Let's see. There we go. All right, and so that way you have your hanging indentation. So let's look, and this actually should be double spaced as well. All right, and then I'm going to come in and just make sure this is all correct, because that National Association of Social Workers does not look right. So then I'm going to check the text color and make sure, there we go, it was in gray instead of black. So now it's all consistent. All right, so this is what we need to be doing for these reference pages. So references, not a works cited. All right, it's in bold, centered on the page, and then your references are in alphabetical order, and you have a hanging indent. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Oh, there's one other thing that I wanted to cover, and that is on the frequency of citations when you're using a single source. So a lot of the citations that you do for in class are ones that you're going to have like one primary source that you're basing your paper off of. So like for assignment 1, it's primarily based off the textbook. So you're going to have that cited repeatedly. The thing to keep in mind about citations is that any time you are getting information from a source material, you have to cite that source. So I'm actually going to pull up a section of writing that I've done on my dissertation just to kind of show, because I did this history of trauma and I had found these 2 articles that were just perfect for the history of trauma, and I referenced them primarily throughout this entire section. They're the primary source material. It was an excellent 2 excellent articles that really went through the history of trauma in a very thorough way. So you'll notice, like I have this Ringel and Brandel article cited 3 times in this one paragraph, because everything that I got from them, I cited, all right, and made it known that this is where I got this information from. All right, so looking at trauma was first studied by a French neurologist, John Martin Charcot, which I cannot pronounce, sorry, in the late 1800s. Again, came from this source. Charcot studied the phenomenon of hysteria or dissociation, which was a disorder characterized by paralysis, amnesia, sensory loss, on and on, which again, that's clear that if I got this information, this is where it was coming from. Just to be sure, after this next sentence, I have it cited. I also had another source who echoed that same information. So again, you're synthesizing when you're writing. So I have both of my sources here together where this piece of information came from. Again, I'm going through a few more sentences. Again, all this information came from the source. I'm just paraphrasing, putting it into my own words and synthesizing it with other sources of information. So I'm going to have these copied and these sources referenced frequently. All right, same thing as we continue in here. You see Herman 2015. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 times in this one paragraph. Because again, this information's not original thought. Like I didn't just sit here and come up with the history of trauma on my own. I obtained this information from a source. So I'm citing that source, or those sources in this case, very frequently. So that way my reader knows this is where I got that information from. So say someone's skimming through and they wanted to see about Freud when he quit studying the population because he was ostracized by his peers. They can see, okay, Herman 2015, this is where she got that information from. Let me go to the reference page, and let's hope I've done this correctly, and find Herman 2015, right there. So Herman, JL, 2015, Trauma and Recovery, the Aftermath of Violence from Domestic Abuse to Political Terror. All right, and I haven't updated this for the APA 7 because I have the location in here. So again, this is the purpose of the in-text citation. So that way the person can come to your reference list. They don't need the title written in there. They just need the author, so they can then come and look at the author here in your reference page and be able to know where they need to go to get more information. All right, so as we wrap this up, if you have any more specific questions about APA, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help you with it. And I hope you all benefited from some of this, maybe learned something new, or at least reinforced what you already know about APA. And I look forward to seeing all of your papers in the future. Good luck, and I will talk with you all soon.